A fierce debate over whether to approve booster COVID-19 vaccine shots in the U.S. culminated in a unanimous vote from the FDA's external panel of experts on Friday to recommend a third Pfizer dose for adults 65 and over, as well as people who face high risks because of their job or an underlying illness. The committee first overwhelmingly voted to reject a request from Pfizer to approve boosters for all Americans aged 16 and over. Outside experts argued that there was not sufficient safety data to endorse a third dose for younger age groups. In a follow-up vote, the group voted unanimously to recommend emergency authorization for a booster dose for older adults and high-risk groups, including healthcare workers. The recommendation will be fine-tuned by a CDC committee next week, said panel acting chair Arnold Monto of the University of Michigan. "I plan to go out and get my third vaccine this afternoon," said Painless J. Portnoy of Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City. "I think it is great that this will be available. It will really help stem the pandemic."
In August, President Joe Biden and his advisors had called for providing booster shots to all adults 8 months after their last vaccine shot, citing new data on waning immunity against COVID-19. But the move required approval by the FDA. In the interim, many scientists, including top scientists at the FDA and the World Health Organization, argued that 2 doses were still highly protective against severe disease and boosters weren't needed for the general population. Extra doses, they argued, were better spent preventing deaths and stopping the development of potentially dangerous new variants worldwide. 2 top vaccine scientists at the FDA have chosen to resign, reportedly over the Biden administration's boosters plan. The choice on whether to officially authorize boosters now rests with acting FDA Chief Janet Woodcock. She has already signed a White House statement supporting Biden's 8-month booster plan. The FDA typically follows the recommendation of its Vaccine Advisory Committee. But many have argued that the White House has been forging ahead with a broad booster plan without the health agency's approval. White House coronavirus czar Jeff Zients on Friday defended the White House's preparations to coordinate with state and local health officials ahead of the FDA's authorization, arguing that the Trump administration's slow vaccine rollout was driven by a failure to lay the groundwork for a vaccination campaign before the shots were authorized. In the course of the day-long meeting ahead of the vote, the panel heard from Pfizer representatives asking for approval of the booster, and FDA experts critically examining the data submitted by the drug maker. Israeli Ministry of Health officials also presented data from their booster campaign, arguing the third shots prevented a surge that would have exceeded the nation's hospital capacity in August. "I agree with the decision the FDA panel made. The evidence I saw presented did support the approval of a third dose for older Americans and others at substantial risk of severe disease," John Moore, a virologist at Weill Cornell Medical College in New York, told BuzzFeed News. "But for younger adults there simply wasn't enough data to justify a third dose, at least not yet." About 20 nations now offer booster shots to some part of their population, typically older adults, medical personnel, or those with compromised immune systems, with around twice that number discussing the possibility. Israel offers boosters to everyone, as does Hungary, while Turkey, Chile, Uruguay, and Cambodia are offering voluntary boosters to those already vaccinated with a less effective Chinese vaccine. Russia is similarly offering boosters of its vaccines. The United Kingdom decided to approve booster shots for people 50 and older, as well as vulnerable groups, such as people with cancer with compromised immune systems, earlier this week, following a recommendation from its external vaccine advisory group. That rollout began Thursday. The main reason the FDA Advisory Committee opposed the initial vote over approving a third shot for everyone 16 and up was the lack of safety data for older teens. Panelists also raised questions about recent data from Israel, suggesting a sharp waning of vaccine effectiveness 8 months after a second shot. Pfizer checked for side effects in only 306 people 18 or older who received a third dose of their vaccine and extrapolated those risks to 16 and 17-year-olds. That is the age range with the highest risk of extremely rare, short-term inflammation of heart muscles, called myocarditis, seen after shots. At the meeting, Pfizer's William Gruber said the company had restricted booster safety tests to those 18 and older because the FDA explicitly allowed them to extrapolate to teens from the data. He argued their reactions should be similar to adults. But the panel overwhelmingly disagreed. I have major concerns about the extrapolation of data from much older populations to 16 and 17-year-olds. We have no data on the safety in this population at all that have been presented so far. And that concerns me significantly, panelist Archana Chatterjee of Rosalind Franklin University in North Chicago said. I'd like to see more data before I recommend it for a younger age group.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe